everyone. Thank you for joining in and welcome to DXP Deconstructed. I'm Prateek Jain and I will be your host today. In this show, we deconstruct tools, technologies, architectures, and solutions required to build scalable digital experience platform. And in today's episode, I'm really excited to be joined by Dominique De Cooman to talk about Open DXPs. Dominique is the CTO and the co-founder at Dropsolid. And Dominique is also a regular speaker at a lot of events and has been a long promoter of Open DXPs. So let's get started. Welcome to the show, Dominique.
Thank you, Prateek. Welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, my pleasure, Dominic, and thank you so much for joining in and agreeing to be part of this show. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. It's a beautiful morning here in Belgium, in Ghent. The sun is shining and the temperature is quite high. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm feeling good.
Yeah, that's good to know. And I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate you on completing the 10-year journey of Dropsolid. Tell us a bit about this journey and how you came to co-found Dropsolid.
Yes, so yeah, it's 10 years this year. It all started way back in, I think, 2006, 2007, when I first got encountered with Drupal. And then, working for several agencies and integrators as a consultant. I found my co-founder, Steven, at one of these jobs that I did. And we thought, like, this Drupal, we really believe in this technology. We thought we could do a better job than the companies that we were working for back then. So we said, okay, let's try and found our own company. And yeah, the reason why we founded it was because, like, we always wanted to contribute more and innovate more than was possible in many of the agencies and integrators where we worked, where the focus was on the billable work. So, and we had a lot of ideas, building products around Drupal, and we did several things over the years. Attracting a lot of talent here in Europe, especially here in Belgium, where we have our main office, but also in other countries like Portugal, France, also the Eastern Europe, in Romania, in Slovenia, in even in Ukraine. A lot of talent from all over Europe is working here at Dropsolid. And in these 10 years, the business crystallized out in like two main units. One is the digital experience agency, which delivers services to the market, with Drupal as a central core technology of the DXPs we are integrating. But it's also delivering strategy, UX, all the things you need to build a great digital experience. And then on the other hand, over the course of 10 years, it started out as just Drupal hosting, which evolves into a Drupal cloud product, and then last 3-4 years it grew out to the Open DXP, which you can find on dropsolid.io website. So it evolved kind of naturally. Keep going on the vision and the idea, and staying true to our values of contribution and innovation. So now we are 10 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I bet you're doing a lot better than all the companies out there. I think in the last 10 years, right? I mean, the way I've seen also Dropsolid evolve, and like you mentioned, the two parts of it, the agency side and the platform side, right? It's really so good to see, and you're still staying true to your values of contributing back to open source community, right? I mean, still there now. So that's really, really good to know and really inspiring, Dominic. So let's get started and start talking about the Open DXPs, right? So tell us about very basic thing. What is Open DXPs and how does it differ from other DXPs that exist out in the market?
Okay. So yeah, first of all, the DXP is a concept that covers a wide range of topics. If you look at the Gartner definition and the critical capabilities, it covers like a pretty broad field. But if we look at really of the core of the DXP is still content management. Yes. So, and if you look at enterprise content management and then you look at open enterprise content management, you quickly will discover Drupal as like the main player in the market. So having Drupal as the main component of the Open DXP totally makes sense. But to be truly a DXP, you have to be content and data, not just content management system, framework, whatever you want to call Drupal. So to add this data component, you can do it in several stages. You can go super far and integrate a full-blown CDP with all kinds of different data streams and really build a unified customer profile which drives how the content is delivered. But you can also do that, I think, in baby steps. So because a lot of like small and medium enterprises who also use Drupal. So when I talk about small and medium enterprises, I don't mean small and medium businesses. So I'm talking about companies probably at least 50 or 100 employees who have a marketing department who are spending, let's say, like 100, 200K on marketing and 50 to 100 on their website. So that's what I mean with small and medium enterprises in their smallest form. And then it goes up all the way to like really, really big enterprises who want to build a DXP. So in these small and medium enterprises, we see that the digital maturity is sometimes still quite low, where you have to introduce the data in baby steps. And we also see that open source is really prevalent in small and medium enterprises. If you look at the install base of Drupal, especially also if you look at the legacy install base of Drupal, there's a lot of SMEs players still in there, looking for a way to introduce data and to do it in an open way and build their open DXP. And then if you start looking into the market, like, okay, but are there any ways to introduce CDP on that level? And if you're going to look, you will not find like a real open
DXPs.
CDP.
CDPs,
Yeah, a CDP component of like you have with Drupal. Like with Drupal, you have a GPL2 license, which is open, can be freely used, freely distributed. On the CDP level, that's not there yet. The only thing you have is Unomi, which is an engine, but it comes without an interface.
Right.
We at Dropsolid, we use Unomi, but of course, we had to build the interface ourselves to complete this. Now, there's another option, in my opinion. And if you start looking, then you will find something called Mautic. So Mautic is an open source marketing automation platform. Yeah. But what Mautic also does is Mautic also captures all the data. Every click is being captured on the website, also for the anonymous users. So all your website behavior is being tracked with the goal of sending emails. But if you put Mautic and Drupal together, actually you have the first, like, smallest form, I think, of an open DXP, because Mautic is collecting this website behavior data and you can use it and personalize your Drupal site, start using data, and okay, you're only collecting behavior data. You're not even connecting it to a CRM system or an ERP system or to even other data streams. You're not using a CDP, but in its smallest form, you have content plus data. You
Data,
can
right?
start.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so the focus is on the experience, like using this data to deliver that experience, right? And then within an Open DXP, the example being like you said, right? I mean, like how Dropsolid experience platform does it, right? So you have this Drupal as a CMS, Mautic as your marketing automation platform, and Apache,
yeah,
you know me, for a CDP engine, and then obviously you have built interface on top of it. Are there other
yeah.
components of the DXP outside of these three things that exist? I mean, so
Well, yes, and that's also something that if you look at the Gartner definition, you will see that there is also it needs to have machine learning and AI capabilities.
okay,
Huh?
yeah.
It's
The
if you look at the definition, but I think that's already a very advanced feature, which will be only used if you are on the level that you have your content management completely installed. You have all your content. The content management is perfectly integrated. Then on top, you are collecting the data, the website behavior data. You are also connecting other data streams. And then you want to start to use the AI, the machine learning, to start, for example, build segments like
yeah.
cluster. Like you give it a set of data and you say, okay, AI, find me the clusters. So that's, for example, one application that we also built into the Unomi on top of the engine to do exactly that, to help you discover the clusters in your traffic data.
Okay.
So yeah, that's also another component. Of course, now these days with the explosion of AI,
Yeah.
there are many services that you can just integrate. I saw an interesting presentation on Drupal Jam about Drupal and AI, and there's a module for that.
Yes.
So you can already just integrate it on the Drupal level to help you write titles on your text, to help you generate text right in the CMS, put tags
Right.
on it, put there's also a
Yeah.
Matic plugin that comes with Matic now, where you can just have it write your email template. So not only on the data stuff, but also on the productivity stuff, there's already a lot of modules available in the
Yeah.
ecosystem that can leverage that. So that's would be something that I think like, okay, this is also something you need to form a DXP.
Yeah, no, makes sense. I think, yeah, I mean, like these days you cannot just go without AI in the ML, right? I mean, it's real, right? I mean, right, like you mentioned, there are modules out there in the CMS or for the Mautic or various other marketing automation, including these generative AI or predictive marketing specific technologies, right? AI and the ML play a major role when you want to deliver those personalized experiences to your users. So tell me something more about the Dropsolid experience platform, right? I mean, how is it the low barrier entry for businesses of all sizes? Like you already mentioned that there are enterprises who are not mature. Depending upon their digital maturity, they may need very advanced AI ML. But then a lot of small, medium enterprises who are not ready to adopt AI and ML solutions yet, but probably Dropsolid experience platforms is one of the DXP options that they can utilize to build that experience and give that experience to their customers. Tell us a bit more about Dropsolid experience platform.
Yes, so Dropsolid Experience Platform, we already talked about the first pillar, which is it's most open, and then the second one, it has a low entry barrier. And what we saw with a lot of our customers is they want to do like a fast implementation, go to market in weeks and months instead of quarters and years. So what you need to do then is get things ready out of the box and make it very easy and flexible to build on top of it and continue. But you can already roll out a first DXP in a matter of weeks and months. So how did we do that?
Okay.
So we have our Rocket Ship installer profile. which is on Drupal.org. It's all open source, so you don't even need Dropsolid for that. You can just grab it and do your own thing with it. We're working on a big upgrade, which will be published on the project DXP on Drupal.org. So if you go to drupal.org/project/DXP, we will put out our latest version of the rocket ship there. What is the big change there is just less opinionated. So in the past, we made it more opinionated with features out of the box. But since we moved a little to more enterprise market, we saw that there was less need to do it SaaS style. So we made it a little bit more flexible, less features out of the box who cannot be changed anymore, and more flexibility, more composability. So that's one thing. So this means that in a couple of weeks, months, you can build your first website. It leverages the layout builder a lot. There will be also capabilities to accelerate headless implementations on the install profile. So the goal is to build first implementation as fast as possible, get the content out, have it easy to build your content types and the layout builder. So in a matter of weeks, the content editors at the customer can already start working on their pages while maybe custom functionality is being built. Meanwhile, integrations, whatever is needed to launch the site. And then second part is the Matic side. So we always try to advise our customers, look, like the first day you go live, you will also probably send emails to everyone that you have in your database, especially if we are working in a commercial context where lead generation is important, or even in non-profit organizations where membership generation is also very important. They also have a commercial context. So having a component like Matic there that you can send the emails, collect the data of the behavior on your website. It just learns you so much more about what is happening in your market than just put out a beautiful website and then do your campaigns. If you really think DXP and you really think the best experience for my customers, for my members, even if in a government segment you have citizens, there's also a relationship with the customer, with the citizen that has to be managed. But even in government, we go to the market with this story. And what we did is with Matic, you can get Matic really fast out of the box, because one of also the critical capabilities of the DXP is delivery. And for delivery, we started out even 10 years ago with Drupal hosting, then with the Drupal cloud. So we had the Drupal cloud. We did the same thing for the Matic cloud. So it's easy, like it's like just clicking a button and you have a Matic instance which is already pre-installed, which can scale, which is connected to an email system. So you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to try and figure it out, do all the integrations. It just works, and we take care of it. If it needs to get upgraded, it will get upgraded. It will stay secure. Same on the Drupal level, of course. But then you also have the development tools that come with that, like the continuous integration and the continuous deployment tools, which come with the Dropsolid Experience Cloud, where you can deliver new code to your Drupal site, new code to your Matic instance. And then there's also a couple of plugins, but our vision is to contribute everything. We have a couple of plugins still on the inside, which are not completely contribution worthy, but like, for example, on the Matic Global MaticCon, we presented the plugin we have where you can pull the content out of the Drupal site and make automatic email templates with your Drupal content, and then send emails. And you can automate this as well. We can also build in automated flows where from day one, if your content editors are building the content pages in Drupal, they can just say, okay, this can go in the email newsletter for the person who is interested in these tags, for example, and then automatically in Matic, it will start sending all the content in that category in a certain time frame to the customer to keep them proactively up to date. So all these kinds of things, it's all value packed into the product, because yeah, you might think Open DXP, it's all on Drupal.org, it's all on Matic.org. How does Dropsolid make money then? Why do we need them? Why can't we just grab it and put it together ourselves on our
Yeah.
own hosting? That's totally possible, and we encourage that. But if you want to take it a step further and also have the cloud and the support and all the extras, yeah, then I think it's totally doable for an integrator and an agency. Of course, they can just take the code that we contribute and deliver that to our customers. But for an end customer who wants to do that themselves, that's just not. They're
That's
not gonna run agency, and they want to be unburdened. So and also, yeah, some of our partners, they just want to focus on their professional services and not on the hosting and the support and finding out the latest and everything. They just we just take the experience cloud and we sell it to our customers and we deliver our professional services. So that's a bit how the experience cloud
yeah.
works. And then the third component is, of course, the Unomi, which is for customers that want to go a little bit further. They want to say, okay, we want to have different data streams. We maybe even want to use the AI to discover certain segments. They start to work with that. And then we also allow the content of Matic and also the content of Unomi to go back to the instances, vice versa. So you
Okay.
can also build emails based on the segments that you are creating in the CDP as well. And you can also use them in the website to personalize. And since it's all based on Layout Builder, for the ones who don't know Layout Builder, it's based on blocks. So every block, every component you put on your page has a visibility setting. So in that visibility setting, you can just say like, okay, I want to show this to this segment, or I don't want to show it to this segment, etc. Also, it's available as variables on the module on the code level, so you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's very well explained, Dominic. And then what I take away from this is like you don't only use open source technologies like Apache Unomi, Matic, and Drupal. You also open source the work that you are doing on top of it, right? And at the same time, not forcing your customers or the users to stay with you. They have that independence to host it on their own or also use your hosting services, right? So that's unique. Probably that's the major difference between Dropsolid and the other organization or other DXP providers who claim to be open, but probably they still have some sort of a vendor lock-in with them, right? Do you call it fair? Like, is that how most of the DXPs work apart from Dropsolid Experience Platform?
Yes, I think that's what signifies the most open. That's why we selected the most open, because in a lot of vendors say we are open, but what they actually mean is that they are composable and they only have to use one component they are offering, like for example their CMS or their CDP or their marketing automation, but you can interchange them. Of course, that's also possible with what we are doing, but we are going a step further. Like you are the owner of your code, because we think, and then I'm thinking the end game, I think, of web development will be that everything in the end will be open source anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I believe. It's my opinion. I'm not I'm not claiming that this is the truth. What I think is that in the end, like right now, most DXP vendors, as you say, there is a vendor lock-in because they offer something on top. But if you look at how the internet is evolving and how fast it goes, you see that all these things eventually it all gets open sourced.
Right.
So we were thinking, why slow this process down? Our values of contributing more, innovating more, why not just accelerate this trend and just go for the end of web development when it's all developed and is open and will be open source anyway, because and now I'm maybe getting a little bit philosophical, but I think that sovereignty will be very important in the future
Nope,
for organizations to
yeah. And I completely agree
please.
with it, Dominic. So I mean, also think, I mean, we actually wrote a blog about like what would true open DXP would mean. Not only using, like you said, right, I mean, open source technologies and being composable, right? A lot of these DXPs out there who claim to be open are composable, also have the APIs where you can get the data in or get the data out, right? But they still remain very opinionated and makes it very difficult to use components of the other DXPs. So let's say, for example, if I want to use Drupal with Adobe Experience Manager's personalizations, right? Now, yes, APIs are available, but are plugins available? Are DXP providers doing enough to facilitate these integrations by going beyond and making these plugins also available? And I don't know, it might not make business sense at times, because obviously you want to make sure your customer stays with you, or they use all your components or DXP components and then they stay only with you, right, as a DXP provider. But said that, like you mentioned, right, I mean, web is moving towards a place where everything would be composable. I should be able to switch out any component of a DXP with any other component. Do you believe that that will work out? It may or may not make a business sense to do it on a larger scale, but what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so that's indeed, like, a lot of vendors say that, like, in theory we have the APIs, you can do it, you can build it, but in the end, when it only really happens is when one component gets extremely dominant. Like, for example, on the CRM level, you have Salesforce, which is extremely dominant. So almost all the CMSs have an integration with Salesforce. They cannot just say like, oh no, we don't support that. You have to use. I don't know if Adobe has a CRM, but if I would say like, you all have to use the Adobe CRM. If everyone already has Salesforce, I think it will be pretty difficult. But because then it will make sense for them to build a true integration and make it really easy.
Yeah.
But if it's like Adobe Experience Manager analytics with a Drupal, I don't think they have a big incentive to make it really, really usable out of the box. They will say like, no, you just take the Adobe Experience Manager and it will just work out of the box and it will be super easy, you know. And that's a bit what we are doing in the open source as well. We make it very easy to use Drupal with Matic and Unomi. But we're not so much focusing on making Drupal better integrated with, let's say, Salesforce. For this, okay, if you have a customer and we can improve the Salesforce module on Drupal.org, we will do it. But there we count on the community in its entirety to bring in the integrations. And that's also what we say to the customers. But it's more the story we will tell as Dropsolid, as an integrator, that we will say like, look, yes, we are using the Dropsolid Experience Cloud to do your integration, but we stay as close as possible to Drupal and Matic and Unomi. So you are on the highway to the best future, because these communities are the best in their class at the moment.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then because you're using these technologies, right, and it's easier to integrate and build these integrations. I think I would like to imagine a world where like digital leaders of the world, digital architects of the world come together and talk about this and have these plugins, right? The major DXP providers or the players, right? I mean, obviously there's a competition and there's a lot of business sense it makes to make customers stay with you. But at the same time, I guess giving this option to the customer to switch these components at ease and not be dependent upon, even though they are APIs, there's a lot of hard work that goes into building these integrations, right? Or maybe 1 out of 5 things won't work that well, right? And solving those challenges would make things very, very easier and give more choices to the customer and hopefully help foster this entire DXP adoption further, and and probably reduce the go to market time as well. So
Exactly.
that yeah,
Exactly.
good to
That's
know.
it. That's the barrier. The time to market. That is the barrier that blocks most of the companies to make a truly composable stack, because there is a cost in integrating everything. And if it's
Right.
not working out of the books, then you're looking at quarters and years, because there's all sorts of
Yeah.
communication between departments and everything. And if they can start with a DXP that's low entry barrier and that just works out of the box, and they can get started, then they can do it on the go. But they're
Right.
already doing it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
I think important. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, Prateek, I think that what you are saying, that if all the leaders of the world would come together, I think that's already happening.
Okay.
That's exactly what open source communities are all about.
Yeah.
But it's a bit slower. It's a bit slower than the commercial drive. The money goes where there is an advantage that can be exploited and generate a profit.
Right.
In open source, it goes slower, but once the train is rolling, it's
Yep.
almost unstoppable, because it gains so much momentum that
Yep.
it will overtake the commercial most of the commercial interests, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, hopefully we'll get over there sooner and faster. So moving on, Dominic, is there any cost of ownership of open DXPs? I know, I mean, as an open source, there is a certain cost associated with maintaining your software, maintaining your application, and all, right? Are there other things that businesses should keep in mind while building an open DXP solution? I know as a proprietary system, you obviously have those big licensing costs, right? But at times I've heard reservations that, hey, there's still a maintenance cost or there's still an ownership cost about the open DXPs. What is your thought on that? And especially when it is compared with these proprietary DXPs cost of ownership?
Yes. So as a provider of an open DXP, we are indeed confronted with the fact, like, okay, no, there is not a license, but there is a maintenance cost. But if you look at the license is like this, and there's
Yeah.
also a maintenance cost budgeted in. You just don't see it as a customer because it's one price. So what we try to do is break it down and say, like, look, you're paying this license, and in that license, this is the maintenance cost, this is the hosting, this is what you pay for the R&D, and this is the margin that has been taken on top of it. If you look at the open DXP, you will say, like, look, this is super transparent, here is the maintenance, here is the hosting.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if we explain it like this, then the customer can put things in perspective. And then you say, like, look, and this R&D cost, 90% of this is in the open source community. So you don't have to pay for that.
Yeah.
And
Got it.
also, and that's also an important thing, you are renting the house if you are going with a license. Here,
Licensing.
you are
Right.
owning the house.
Right.
It's your
Right.
house. Okay, you have to maintain your house, but it's your house. Okay, if you
Yeah.
are renting it, the owner has to do the maintenance and the upkeep and everything. If you own the house, you
Yeah.
have to do that yourself, but the house is yours.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Especially
Correct.
now, and I think there has been with Drupal, there has been a difficulty with moving from 7 to 8. Like, some customers think, like, a little bit of trust has been broken there in their eyes. It's their perception, but I can understand it. Like, they say, like, I have to rebuild the whole thing.
Right.
And now you are saying that will never happen again. Sure, once we get to Drupal 11, 12, there will be something where we have to
Correct.
pay the whole thing again. Then you have to say, no, no, it will not be like that anymore. This was just the evolution of the internet. Things moved a lot faster, so that's why it broke. But now we are beyond that stage. You can tell all these things, but they have experienced another reality. But in fact, it is true. If you see the maintenance costs of maintaining a Drupal and upgrading it to next major version is getting smaller and smaller.
Right.
And also working with like an experience cloud with the Drupal cloud platform, a lot of the maintenance things can be automated on the platform level. So I think that will become less and less and less as a problem. Of course, if you do all the hosting yourself and you don't use any automations, it will still, and you charge all the hours to your customer, okay, you will get expensive. But if you don't do that, and you use the correct tools, then I think you will be fine, and you will definitely be able to explain it versus the proprietary
Yeah.
cost.
No,
Yeah.
no, makes sense. Yeah, so it's also to summarize, right? I mean, obviously, the cost of ownership for Open DXPs is already less as compared to the licensing fee of proprietary software, and it is bound to go down with newer and newer versions. And like I said, right? I mean, at least at the platform level, at both at the application level as well, right? The costs are coming down as far as Open DXPs or open source technologies are concerned. So, yeah, that's a great insight, Dominic. So, can you share a success story of a DXP implementation that you have been part of? What were some of the major challenges or the pain points that your customer was probably trying to solve, and then what was your journey and the approach of finding the problem or discovering the problem to finding a solution? Any high level success story of your DXP implementation?
Yes, I think one of our successes is for a government customer, which is the Agency of Tourism here in Flanders. And what they wanted was a DXP that could give them a global reach to bring the tourists to Flanders.
Okay.
Flanders is a beautiful region in the world. If you ever have the chance to come and see it, there's a lot of things here to see, and I want to promote it to everyone in the world. So, but to do that, they work with a distributed team in many countries. They have their offices, local offices, who do their work, but they were all doing it on their own. All they had websites, they had marketing automation, they had some kind of or not data collection. So they want to consolidate everything on one DXP. So one place where they can generate the content, one CMS, one marketing automation. And next step will also be to collect all the data centrally with the CDP.
Right.
And in that deal, we were facing companies like Adobe and Sitecore and yeah, like the really big proprietary companies with their integrators. But we were able to convince the customer that as a government to invest in an open DXP would be the best choice for them long term. We could deliver them a lot of value out of the box. What we did is like the classic Drupal multi-site setup
Okay.
for all the different entities, and also like more like a website factory basically, where they have an install profile and they can roll it out on the Dropsolid Experience Cloud, and also
Okay.
still go custom in certain countries if they want to. And we did also the same thing with Matic, like a multi Matic setup, like a
Okay.
multi. So the Matic can also be used by all the different entities, but they are reusing all the templates, all the data, everything they are learning, also on a data level and on the email communication level. So that's only possible if you're using a DXP. And what was also as important for them as a government was to keep sovereignty. Like,
Yeah.
here in Europe, we have the GDPR laws, which these agencies want to keep the data under their control. And this is actually possible because everything is their property. The only thing they are paying us for is to orchestrate everything. Like, we are the glue, but
Yep.
everything that is glued is their property. Their Drupal is their property, their Matic is their property, their Unomi engine is their property, and all the data that is in it is also their property.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Yeah,
and the
that's
challenges, you wanted also to talk about the
yeah.
challenges of the DXP. I think one of the biggest challenges of the DXP is that in just CMS projects or website projects, the chances that you're talking to just one department are a lot bigger. If you are on a DXP level, you are talking to a lot of departments with the customer. You're not only talking with marketing and communication, you're also talking with IT, but sometimes you're also talking with customer success. Sometimes you're even talking with HR because they also want to do employer branding with the platform, and employee targeting with the DXP, which is also totally possible. Sometimes you're talking with operations managers who want to use the DXP as an employee experience, as an intranet. So you're talking with everyone in the organization. And this brings you on a different level, because even as an integrator, if you want to start integrate DXPs, you start to see like, okay, it's not enough to just have developers and marketeers. You also need enterprise architects to think with the customer, and you need digital strategists, UX strategists, to find out what is the best digital experience for our customers, employees, whoever is the stakeholder. So I think these are the main difficulties where you run in. And then another one that we had is also, okay, having Drupal developers also develop on Matic. It's not like just they have the code base in their brain and they can just start developing on it. It's not like that. But what we saw is that it does, if they get the proper training and onboarding, it's their pretty Drupal developers already are on a pretty advanced level as a developer. So understanding Matic, which is also in Symfony. And of course, it also helps that Matthias, our director of engineering, is the product lead at Matic. So they can just go and ask him if they get stuck. But and he's also doing a lot of work to improve the developer experience in Matic. So bringing in composers, like just making Matic far more developer friendly. Yeah, because the Matic community is mainly a marketeer community.
That's correct.
It's a lot of marketeers. So bringing this developers into a marketing product, and that's also one of the challenges that we had, and educating the customers over the different departments. That's also a difficult. It's a challenge.
No, that's really interesting. And tell me something, right? I mean, when you started Dropsolid 10 years back, did you ever imagine to competing against Adobe's and Sitecores of the world? Now that you're doing it, right? I mean, how do you feel personally about doing this and achieving it within your 10 years journey of Dropsolid?
For me, it's super crazy. I think like when we first won that deal, we couldn't believe it that we won. It's like a David against Goliath type of victory. So for us that was a great feeling, and we have many more of these customers, and especially I think especially in the government sense, they are aware of the sovereignty, where with the Open DXP we do have a clear USP, but also in the commercial space, notoriously Sitecore and Adobe implementations, they can say they go fast to market, but if you really look at the reviews, we are talking years to do it properly. We're talking years. It's just go on the internet, go read all the reviews. We are talking years. It's not out of the box. It's not low entry barrier. So and you don't own the whole thing. You're building like a really big house with a swimming pool and 5 garages and everything. And in the end, it will not be yours. Your beautiful house. While you can really build the same with open source, with Drupal, with Matic, with all these tools, over time you can achieve the same effect with open source, and it will be yours. And I think that's a big selling point. And the Dropsolid Experience Cloud just accelerates that process of building your beautiful house and owning it.
Owning it, right. Absolutely. I'm sure, right? I mean, it must be crazy for you to kind of get in. And I'm pretty sure you are winning already a lot more against Adobe's and Sitecores of the world, and a lot more would happen with this Open DXP approach and your vision. So thank you for sharing that, Dominic, right? So moving on, a few final things, right? I mean, choosing a DXP is a long-term investment. It doesn't matter is it an open DXP or even a proprietary DXP platform. It takes time to strategize, consult, and implement, and then go to the market, right? What are some of the things that should be kept in mind while choosing a DXP platform as a business?
I think the first thing you have to realize is to become aware of your digital maturity level.
Okay.
I think that's the first thing you have to do as a business is be aware, where are we right now? What is our maturity level? Who are the people we have in our teams? What is their experience? Which kind of projects they have done? I see a lot of businesses go wrong. In fact, where we lose against Adobe, it's mostly because of the business not understanding their digital maturity level. Like,
Right.
I can give an example. Can't name any names, but
Yeah.
where we had a business with a very low maturity level, and they thought like we have to go from level 1 to level 5, and to make that jump in one go, we're going to go with Adobe experience level. And by the way, we need to go fast to market as well.
Yeah, not happening. Yeah, you can't go from this level to that level in a like that, right? I mean, so I know what you're saying. I mean, we have had a similar experiences where yeah, customer wanted to do so many different things, but in the end what they wanted was a very simple basic personalization, right? Simple switching off blocks on the websites and build very small customer journeys, right? I mean, to take actions, and then you don't need big proprietary softwares for that, right? I mean, a lot of just so realizing that is very important thing, and then knowing your digital maturity is a very important task.
But I think it's a very smart play of Adobe to go into those very digitally immature businesses and like project like the big vision of the big house at the
Yeah.
beach, and say like, this is what you need to make it happen in a couple of months. But I'm curious how it will play out. I'm
Right.
curious how it play out, because in reality, most of the times the truth catches up with these businesses, and you
Yep.
cannot just transform an old school marketing department to like, it's, I think it's just not possible. In like, okay, you can do it, but it will be very disruptive for the business, and I think it will do a lot of damage, and it will chase away a lot of people who do have a lot of knowledge about the actual business, who that can be harvested in the new platform. I think going step by step and using an open DXP,
Yeah.
and have the DXP grow with your maturity level while you are training your people, while you are onboarding new people, attracting new talent, working with a partner who has done it many times. For me, that just feels like a more natural way to go. But I think that's my opinion. I'm not
Right.
saying that's the truth. That's what I believe. And that's what in my experience of the last 15 years, that's where I've always seen the most success in the long run, and success that accumulates.
Right.
And the fallacy of thinking, yeah, we have to be disruptive and break things, and that kind of mentality.
Yeah. Right.
Sometimes, yeah, one in 100 it works out,
Maybe.
and then the manager is the big hero. But in the other 99 percent of the times, it's just a total disaster. And after a couple of years, they're still nowhere. So maybe it's better
Yep.
to just have the odds in your favor, and go the open
Right.
DXP route, and do it step by step with your maturity. So I
Yeah, no,
think
makes
that if I
sense.
would say most important is digital maturity, being aware of where you are and what's your capabilities, how fast you can move through the different levels.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. Knowing your digital maturity, and then taking the appropriate choices to get you to the next level and step by step, not like breaking the things in like one go. So that, I mean, I think we are also nearing the end of the show. I do have last couple of questions. How do you envision the future of DXPs in next to 5 years? What are the major things that you see are going to impact the future of the DXPs?
That's a good question, Prateek. Let me look in my crystal ball.
Yeah, we all have one, right?
um, I think
Or let me say, how do you want to see it? I mean, rather than how would it evolve, like what would you like to see that, hey, this is something that is missing today, but then, hey, I wish this was solved, or this is how I would like to see it.
I think the vision of what a DXP has to be like, for example, if you read the Gartner critical capabilities, is
Yeah.
already pretty extensive. So a lot of businesses are like the vision of what Gartner is saying, what a DXP should be is here, but most businesses are here. So I think the DXPs who will be successful will be, I think, the ones who don't try to deliver everything that's on the that you need to be like the top. I probably there's a strategy for the top players as well, because like the biggest businesses and if you look at the leaders in the quadrant like Sitecore and Acquia and Adobe, they have to have all that feature completeness. But for I think for the DXPs who are in the mid and in the smaller enterprise market, the key will I think be to focus on how can you accelerate your customers to go through to the stages. That will be I think the ones who will be successful.
Okay.
And then
Yeah,
in
makes
the
sense.
end, having like I said, I believe that maybe not in 5 years, probably they will take a little bit longer, but I think in 10 years, you will be able to just install an Open DXP just like you do today with like a small website, and you click a button, and I think that will be the end game of websites and of
Yeah.
CMS DXP in the end. But will it take 5 years or 10 years? Maybe a whole AI thing will also accelerate a lot of stuff. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how that will play out. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think the same. I think AI will have a lot of role to play when it comes to DXPs, right? And at the same time, I also see AI in general from the code perspective. AI has made writing code easier. Okay, it takes a minute to write a bunch of the code these days, right? So I see that a lot of programmers would be coming who don't have a programming background, but then they would be able to write a code with the help of AI. So I see that would facilitate the system will have to probably evolve to support those users as well. As a marketer who wants to write a custom code, right? Maybe with the help of AI. So I see these kind of tooling support required for that. A lot of programmers coming into it, and lot many implementations and innovation happening because of it is how I anticipate happening in general, not in with respect to DXP, but then overall, right? Because you can write code just by writing statements, right, using generative AI. So that's what I think would play a major role in terms of what we see in the next few years to come. Said that, I know, and any show we can't miss talking about AI, right? I mean that's a buzzword. We can't just do any show or any discussion without talking about AI. But said that, just one last thing, right? I mean, which is completely different. I know there is DrupalCon Lille coming up in October this year. How are you and Dropsolid planning for this event? And for this mega event, what are your plans?
Yes, so we will be present, and since it is only like 40 minutes drive from where we are, from
Okay.
our main office here in Belgium, is just across the border with Belgium and France. So we will be there. Dropsolid will be a diamond sponsor. We will have a booth where both we were looking to meet new people, to to maybe come and work at Dropsolid. And on the other hand, the other side of our booth will be where we showcase all the new things that we are doing with the Dropsolid Experience Cloud, and get the developers and not only developers, but basically everyone who is involved with digital experiences, also the marketers and the managers, to get their hands dirty with the DXP. And in the middle of our booth, we are planning to bake waffles, Belgian waffles, if we are allowed, with the organizations to get the current out of the wall to bake the waffles. And if you get your hands dirty with the DXP, you can enjoy a waffle afterwards. So that's how we are preparing.
Awesome. No, this is so good to know, right? I mean, I can't miss the DrupalCon now because of these Belgian waffles, right? I'm sure you also mentioned last time when we were talking about you are going to have vegan donuts, vegan waffles as well, right? So yeah,
Yes.
those are from me. But thank you, thank you so much, Dominic. I think I don't feel like ending the show. I'm sure we can like continue for another hour talking about DXPs and sharing thoughts, and then some of your thoughts and things that you shared were really insightful, and I'm sure it will bring a lot of insights for our viewers. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you everyone for listening and tuning into this show. We will be back with another episode next time with another DXP story. Till then, thank you. Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, Prateek. My pleasure. Thank you.